Hey everybody, Elliot Wilcox here, in-home personal trainer and executive wellness manager. Today I'm going to go over my review of the Grand Traverse trail run slash hike in Duluth, Minnesota. So this past weekend I did the long one, which was supposed to be 27 miles, but unfortunately there was a concert near the finish line, so they slightly had to adjust, so it ended up being 26 and a half miles of trail running on the Superior Hiking Trail. If you've ever been on the Superior Hiking Trail, it is not a trail you would find at like a regional park or a state park. It is pretty rugged. If you are a camper and you know what a portage is, and if you've been to the Boundary Waters in northern Minnesota, I would equivalent it to be exactly the same as a portage, because there's rocks, there's roots, there's boulders. It's something that's very technical and very difficult. So I'll be honest right away that I was not necessarily in the best shape to do a trail run. I was in shape to do more of a road run. I've never done a marathon. I've never done a half marathon. I've ran like 12 miles in training for more so triathlon, but I've never really done a running race by itself. So trail running is a lot different. You're picking up your knees, you're putting your feet all over the place to try to find the best spot because there's rocks, roots, and such. So I am going to take you through some checkpoints, basically the first aid stations, and there was 4 stations throughout that you gotta like get some food, some nutrition in, take a little bit of a break if you wanted to. And the stories that I've kind of went throughout. So to start off this, like I said, I wasn't necessarily the most trained. As a trainer, I know how to breathe. I know the angle of my chest should match my shins. I know where how hard my breathing should be. I know what heart rate I should be at. I know where my head level should be at. And for the most part, a lot of these detail-orientated stuff really helped me. And some stuff I just completely had to throw out the window just because the nature of a trail run is pretty hard. So Saturday morning was the race, starting at 6:30 in the morning. Have I ever ran at night? No. Have I ever ran with a backpack on? No. Okay, so 2 things out of the bat. So, we take this bus ride, we go from the end point, we take this bus ride, we go to the starting position, and we kind of like group up. The race director kind of talks about some stuff, and then we basically march one by one, and everybody starts running down the trail. And so luckily I had a headlamp on, and there were some people that didn't have a headlamp on, and I'm glad I bought one, for this instance, because it's dark, you're running on a trail, and you could tell who didn't have one because they're literally rolling their ankle or falling throughout. And so luckily for that first like hour of running, you needed a headlamp. There were some sections, let's break this out here. Can you see that? Oh, maybe, I don't know. So the start, so you had 5.8 miles to the first aid station, the first aid station. So they had first aid and nutrients and stuff, like I said. So that entire time, I basically kept my headlamp on the entire time because there were sections of forest. Yes, we're running through the Superior Hiking Trail. There were sections of forest that were super thick. So you'd be in like, daylight, dawn kind of atmosphere. So it's a little bit bright out, but then you get through some darker areas with some heavy shade and it would be dark. So you'd have to turn it back on. So I just said, screw it. I'm going to leave it on for all the way through the first aid station, just so it's completely light out. While it was still dark, we're all filing one by one. The race is still early on. Everybody's trying to set pace. Everybody's probably going faster than they should because it's a really long race. We got lost. About mile number 2, I remember it. I buzzed 2 miles and we took a right turn. We should have taken a left. We only went 0.05. So not very far, but luckily some people were coming back the other direction, and so we got to backtrack just a little bit. And it's really hard to watch where you're going because if you haven't been on this trail before, basically you have these pieces of basically paint, 2 lines or 1 line of blue that are about this big, so very small, on a tree, and that indicates that you're on the Superior Hiking Trail, or a small sign about this big on a tree that indicates you're on the Superior Hiking Trail. Well, when it's dark outside, you're looking down like this, and you're only able to illuminate the place out in front of you. It's really hard to spot those markings on a tree. So you're kind of following, and hopefully that person that's leading the pack and kind of watching those off in the distance, you know, continue to run. Hopefully they're going in the same good direction that's correct. And like I said, that 2 mile mark was wrong. So that was another, you know, pretty big thing to start off with within the first 20 minutes. I rolled my ankle pretty hard, I would say about the first 1.5 miles in, so before we got lost. And I thought to myself, like, holy crap, am I gonna be able to do the rest of this? You know, I just rolled my ankle. I normally don't roll my ankle when I do a race in triathlon, or even when I'm out on a run, and here I just rolled my ankle pretty hard, but nothing that's causing significant damage. And so thinking to myself, like, man, I can't overstep. I'm not as experienced putting my feet wherever. I really got to be careful and mindful where I put my feet. So that first 5.8 miles, I rolled my ankle, I think 2 times each. Like, I was, you know, pretty rough. And I'm thinking to myself, am I able to do this entire thing? Like, I had a lot of self-doubt going into this. And so we got to the first aid station. So after that 5.8 miles, you know, it was pretty light out. I took my sunglasses out, which I had a yellow lens, and I like yellow lens in the morning or at night running just because it kind of brightens everything up. It illuminates everything. So like I said, that dawn time frame, it is kind of still dark, but it's not fully light out. So, you know, it's too bright to have a headlamp on, it's too dark, or too, you know, not dark enough to have the headlamp on. So I had the yellow sunglasses, which I basically kept on the entire race because it literally puts everything into like HD mode, and I was able to better accommodate myself throughout the entire race. So the first aid station, my goal was to take a block, like Cliff brand blocks. You got 6 of them in a little pouch. I was supposed to do that every top of the hour, and then every 30 minutes do a salt. Well, basically between every single first aid station was a constant run or hike. And so I would take 2 salt tablets, 2 salt sticks, and a block. And I would 2 salt sticks would be at that aid station, and then I would open another block, and that block I would just stick in my Nathan water bottle so I can snack on those throughout between each first aid station. So my nutrition, I kind of had to switch up on the fly. I wasn't too excited about it, but you know, I'm doing new things, so I just want to be prepared. So we get through that first one, and by then everybody's pretty much spaced themselves out. The really fast people flew out, the slow people are walking way behind us. And I ran at probably about 10, 11 minute miles. Some, you know, on the flats we're running faster, on the downs we're running a little slower, on the hikes up we're basically just walking with a good pace. After that first aid station, I met up with a buddy of mine, not a buddy of mine, well now he is, but I met him after that station, and basically we got lost right away with each other. And so luckily we found somebody else, and we took out our maps and we kind of orientated ourselves, and we're like, oh, this path we're on is gonna loop back to our other path that we're supposed to be on. So we may have gotten maybe a little bit more, but I don't think anything more, just because it literally ran parallel and we just got off a little course. And so that was only 4.3 miles between that station and the other one. So it's probably one of the shorter distances that we had to travel. And so we stuck together throughout the rest of the race until near to the end, until that last checkpoint or first aid station. And so it got pretty to the point where, you know, I'm chilling on, you know, my noons that are in my water bottle. I'm chilling on my blocks that are in the pouch on my Nathan water bottle, and I'm carrying all this gear behind me, and I still have my long sleeve compression shirt on. And to be honest, I packed really, really heavy. I wanted to be prepared. The Boy Scout in me wanted to be prepared for anything possible. I brought like 2 extra pairs of socks. I even did a drop bag for station number 3 here. And so packed really heavy. You know, Zach behind me was like, man, your bag looks heavy. And I'm like, it kind of is. You know, I'm really not used to looking down at my feet the whole time. You know, in triathlon, rather biking, you know, looking down, maybe peeking forward, and running, we're more used to going like this. So here I am carrying more excess weight on my shoulders, looking forward, and I'm just trying to save my low back and not leaning forward too much. So number 2 first aid station, we did like a rolling stop, meaning that like Zach and I like walked. So at that point, it was like a time frame where we were like, all right, we're gonna chug some water. I'll do some salt sticks. I'll get a new block out. I basically turn my backpack to the front and I'm like, you know, reaching in and out of it. And then I turn it to the back and then we kept going. And so this next section between 2 and 3 of the first aid stations was the longest one of 6.9 miles. So very, very long. And so he was, you know, we're chit-chatting back and forth this entire time, you know, running the flats, hiking with some haste on the way up, running the downs. And there were sections where we would literally run for like 3 miles or so. Like we were making some good time. You know, it was in a good part of the course where we could get some speed, and basically just chatted the entire time. And that's a long, you know, stretch without getting some nutrients, you know, 6.9 miles. And this, you know, now without getting nutrients, well, you know, this is hiking on or running on trail running. And so it's exhausting. It's not just, you know, flat ground or blacktop where you're getting some incline decline. You're literally everywhere, like parkour basically. So we get to station number 3. And I'm like, holy crap, we're really doing this. You know, this is further than I've ever ran. You know, I've only ran 12 miles before, and holy crap, you know, we're at like 17 miles. And so he's like, hey, my wife, you know, is here, and if you want to like give her some of your stuff to lighten your load, we definitely can do that. And I was just like, no, I think I'm fine. And I'm getting some water, I'm getting some nutrients in. I'm like, yeah, I'll take you up on that. I'll take you up for sure. You know, I took my long sleeve on, so I just had to make my running Nike Pro tank on, and I had just some minimal stuff in my backpack. And I felt way different. And, you know, they were looking at me like, you were carrying all this? I was just like, yep, I'm a dumbass. So basically, I knew mentally between the station number 3 and station number 4, since there's only 4 of them, between that 3 and 4 is mentally and physically going to be the hardest for me, meaning that like, you know, we're not yet quite done. We still have another aid station. And the fact that I just ran 17 miles, I have 10 more miles left. And this is well beyond what I've ever done. And so I was telling Zach, I was like, this is where I'm going to start to struggle mentally and physically, more so physically. But, you know, to be honest, you know, Zach was very nice with like the coaching aspect, you know, just kind of asking how I felt, you know, how pace was. For the most part, either he would lead, and towards the end of that last section there, and most of it after number 3, he led, whereas up to that, for the most part, I led to some extent. So my body was feeling great. You know, I was just like super happy about it. My ankles, like I said, I rolled them a whole bunch of times. Not very happy about it, but you know, and so I could feel the heat around my ankles, you know, around the joints there, but nothing else. You know, my calves were fine, quads were fine, glutes were fine, low back, shoulders were fine. Everything was fine. And so the only thing that I was struggling with was like that mental, you know, load of like, holy crap, like, am I be able to do this? You know, by then I took my heart rate monitor off because I just wanted more expansion and contraction throughout my diaphragm rather than having something kind of feeling constricted around my midsection. I'll tell you what, it kind of messed up my heart rate reading on here, but honestly, it was just more about feel at that point of like, am I doing this or not? And so after checkpoint number 3, I lightened my load. Zach and I started running, and, you know, we were running at pretty good pace. And so, you know, his wife was going to meet us at the finish line. She was also going to be at station number 4. And, you know, at mile, I believe it was like 22 was the last station. And literally about like a half mile before then, I was just like, ugh. holy crap. You know, I have 4.5 miles left, because remember doing 26.5, not exactly 27 that it was advertised at. But I was just like, man, I need to get some nutrients in me. I know that like if I don't, I'm not going to be able to run another 4 miles at this pace. And if you ever seen somebody at like the end of like an Ironman and they like fall to the ground and like can't get up and they're delirious, that was in my mind, and it was scaring the crap out of me. And so like I wanted to finish with a happy, you know, smiling face. I didn't want to like collapse and like have to go to the hospital or like need medical attention, because I still had to drive 3 hours home directly after this. And so, you know, that was going to be hard enough as it was. And so about a half mile, you know, Zach's basically just like, you know, we leave about 10, 15 feet away from each other, just so we, you know, don't have injury, you know, in case we need to stop faster or, you know, adjust course, that kind of thing. And so he's just like, hey, I'm going to go ahead. And I'm like, please do. You know, I'm getting kind of pooped out. I need to take a longer break. And so he kept going on. He rolled through station number 4, and I basically stopped, you know, to like get some food, you know, I normally don't do like Powerade, but it was there, and I was just like, I need stuff, you know, I'm probably gonna have some some gastric issues, some digestive issues, going in, you know, if I get too much sugar in my body to some extent, because that's what I have with like triathlon. If I get too much sugar, I have like digestive issues, and it kind of goes south from there. So after that, station number 4, you know, I took in some crackers, and my throat was still dry. I was like, and I was like, this is good, like drinking water. And then I got some bars in me. And I didn't want to take in so much, because then I'll feel like super heavy. And so I'm like walking as I'm eating this stuff. And before I left that station with all that stuff, I jokingly said like, oh, we're almost done. And then the people at the first aid station are like, no, you got like 4 miles left. So I was like, oh, downhill from here? And they're like, no, you have to go up to that tower. And it's like Ingrid Tower, which is pretty high in Duluth if you know the area. And basically I'm looking at it, I'm like, it looks so far away. And so I was having a lot of self-doubt up here, you know, knowing that like I have to finish this race by myself, and the Superior hiking trail is not very fun to orientate. Like if you've never done it before, you know, like I said, looking for those markers and hoping you don't get off course. Well, so after I got some food in me, I was like, I'm just gonna start jogging, you know, I'm gonna start feeling better when I get moving. And I did. You know, I started to perk up after about 5 minutes of just walking, getting some food in me. And then I was like, oh yeah, I can do this. And then all of a sudden, like, I got this huge wind of energy, and I was like, I'm running faster than I was before. Like, I feel so good. And, you know, looking back, I was like, I probably just didn't take enough nutrients, because I'm more of like a high intensity interval training kind of person, where I like the ups, I like the downs of my heart rate. And so I just needed to take in more nutrients, that kind of deal. And so the first 2 miles, I would say the first 1.5 miles, 2 miles, after station number 4 was pretty much uphill to some extent, you know, very gradual uphill to get to that Ingrid Tower. And then after that, it was for about 3/4 mile to a mile downhill off the bluff to, you know, I would say like sea level, or where like Canal Park is, you know, if you know that Duluth area. And so I was just like, you know, my body feels really good. I don't feel anything. But when we started going downhill, it was all quads. You know, you're trying to like slow yourself from like either rolling your ankle or going too fast. And it was all quads. And there was like a cross section right across the street, and then go back down into the trail. And there was like a group of people kind of cheering people on. They're like, you can do it. I'm like, yeah, I can. And it's all quads from here. And they're like, it's all quads from here. And then I was just like, they'll get it eventually, because it was literally all quads, and it was just burning. Like literally, like every step I could feel, and I'm running, and you know, it's going back and forth, you know, with like the trails, and then it's going down. And by the time we got to like that main section area of, you know, the trail where it's like, I would say, you know, that water sea level, you know, more towards Canal Park, it's blacktop basically from, you know, where you pop out of the woods and then you're like in civilization. And then it's just a run to Ficker's Brewery. And so as soon as I got off the run, you know, I know this is like the shortest, you know, 4.1 miles since the last station. You know, I'm watching my watch. I'm like figuring like how much energy I have left, how much how much should I expel for speed wise? You know, should I just like let her rip, or am I gonna burn out? Because I want to, like, you know, finish this in some sort of run. Everybody wants a run of the finish line. They don't want to have to like walk it in front of everybody, and that's just kind of embarrassing. So right as I like cross the highway, I'm like near Canal Park. I got stuck at the stoplight forever, and luckily there was this nice truck who like stopped traffic and was just like, go ahead. Either he knows what I was doing because I had a bib on, or he knew that I was looking like I was dying, and I just needed to keep moving, otherwise I was gonna get stiff. And so after that stoplight, I kept running pretty slow, you know, just kind of getting my stuff together. I hit Canal Park, and you know, I'm on like the trail, or the path that runs along the shoreline, and you start seeing those stairs that go up to Ficker Brewery, and it's just like all kind of comes together like, holy crap, I just did this. You know, I'm gonna finish at like 26.5 miles, basically over a marathon of trail running, you know, 6 hours and 30 minutes. My watch said 6 hours and 24 minutes. You know, I'm not gonna be a big stickler on that, but over 6 hours of running is insane. And, you know, not just running, but constant hiking and movement. You know, in my mind, that was just like, how did I just do this? Like, I've never ran, you know, over 12 miles. And, you know, I just ran and had like 5-hour conversations with Zach. And he does 50 milers and 100 milers. And here I am like, yeah, I just started running this year. And so I got closer to the Ficker stairs, and it is stairs. It's like, I would probably say maybe 1 or 2 stories up until you get to like where the bar, restaurant, their back patio and stuff is. And that's where the finish line is. And you get closer to those stairs, and I'm thinking in my head, like, any other day I would be like, screw stairs. No, I hate stairs. Literally in my mind right now is just like, I love stairs. You know, it was just like such a like euphoric experience. Like, I was just so high off running. I was just so high off like the mood I was feeling. It was just insane. And I get up to the top of those stairs. I run across like the little platform where it does your time, and I was ecstatic. You know, super, super pumped. So met up with Zach, got all my stuff back from his wife that was carrying it, you know, from when she was driving. And then we like caught up and chatted for a little bit, and, you know, took pictures at the end. And I called my wife to be like, hey, I made it, I'm not dead, you know. And then my parents end up calling me, and then, you know, just trying to like bring it all in. And, you know, I'm at a race. Normally I don't go to a race by myself, normally have my wife with, but, you know, just last minute of this race, it just kind of the way it was. And so I sat there and stretched for a little bit. I knew that I didn't want to sit for too long, otherwise I'd get really stiff. And it wasn't very long. You know, I'm just drinking water, I'm drinking food. I'm eating some, you know, some like some blocks, some salt sticks. You know, I had some snacks that they had at at the finish line there. And it was, I got up and I felt like I just got hit by a bus. And I've done triathlon. Triathlon for me, I do the Olympic ones, and they're like 2 hours and 15 minutes roughly. And I get done with those, and I'm like, I feel pretty good. I'm exhausted, more of a kind of like a sprint, you know, 2 hours and 15 minutes. And this, I felt like I literally got hit by a bus, or like beat up by a whole bunch of people at once. And so here I am, like all dirty, you know, mud everywhere on my legs, and I'm like getting to my car because I want to go change so I can go to a restaurant at Ficker's. And I was just like, okay, so I'm like limping, almost like, you know, like I should be having like this walker kind of deal. And you could tell who else ran the race because they're also in pain as well. So I get to my car, I do the changing. I'm like literally like taking like 5 times longer walking wise than I should, just because of my speed and how I felt. And so I get to the restaurant, and I'm like, you know, table for 1, you know, I'll sit at the bar, and they're like, we're full, you know, it'll be like 30 minutes. And in my head, I'm like, I need nutrients now. I can't wait. I can't sit here. I can't stop moving. Because I need food. And so, you know, what do? So I went back to the car, I went, and I knew where there was like a quick trip. In your mind, you're like, oh, you're going to a quick trip. But I just needed Powerade, Gatorade, I needed electrolytes, I needed some food. And so I went to a quick trip. I got a half gallon of chocolate milk. I got 2 Powerades and a bag of salt and vinegar chips. And I love those chips. I needed salt. I needed some food that I wanted to, you know, eat. And I really just didn't want to eat. I wasn't very hungry, but I knew I needed to force myself so I sustained. I got some gas as well, and luckily right next door was a Subway, and so I got a nice sub, and then I was underway. You know, I had to drive, 3 hours home after that, which, I'm used to doing that, but literally I was in such a state where I'm just like, I gotta take a bite of this sandwich. And I love the Subway and I love the sandwich that I got, but literally just trying to force myself to eat because I was so exhausted. Otherwise I would eventually get sick. And just because my body is just without calories for so long. And so I went through that whole half gallon of milk on the drive home. I got through a 6-inch sub, I got through the chips, I got through a Powerade, and I started to perk back up. My goal was to come home, unpack, shower, and then nap, but I started to liven up a little bit, and I didn't get my nap in. Now, today is Thursday, so it's been about 5 days since that Saturday race, and the first 3 days I was pretty rough. The day after, I literally had a two-step it on, downstairs. It was pretty freaking rough, and so I was using my Compex electric muscle stimulators to kind of wake up the muscles. I went on very short walks with the wife and dog just to kind of help keep moving. And then as the week kind of progressed, I swam on Tuesday, which was roughly 3 days after the fact, and I was really sore going in, but I felt great coming back out. And so now, yesterday I went for a little run with a client, and I could feel just some I'm still sore here, not fully recovered, but I need to keep moving, and that's a big part. So I got back on my nutrition, got back on better sleep because I had a hard time kind of sleeping because I was so sore. I haven't been this sore for ever. And so now, 5 days out, I am almost back to 100% and looking forward to a half marathon in a week. And then I have a swim meet the day afterwards just to kind of, spice some things up. So would I do it all again? Heck yes. During the run, I was thinking, why would I ever do this again? But after the fact, I'm like, there's so much stuff I want to improve on that I can't wait for the next one. And I would suggest anybody to do the Grand Traverse one. If you do the 27-mile one, you'll get a t-shirt that says, this isn't it, but this is a symbol of t-shirt and a rock. Yeah, a rock and a t-shirt. And so that's kind of my review of the Grand Traverse Superior Trail Run / hike. And maybe I'll see you there next year, so look out for me. So again, Elliot Wilcox, in-home personal trainer and executive wellness manager. I hope you have a really good day. I'll talk to you later. Peace out.